So this will be shown onto your browser. Now we are really not interested at how this basic stuff works. It was just a reminder for you because this HTTP variable will work exactly as an object after we are calling in the HTTP module from the Node's API. So you might be confused about how this HTTP is becoming something of an object, or how are we even calling in a function or a method on top of this object. So if we get back to the Node's official website, you will get something like, if you head over to nodejs.org/API, it's going to give you all the details about all the other modules that Node's API contains. It contains something like cluster, console, crypto, debugger, DNS, domain, errors, events, file system. So we'll be looking at how to work with the file system, which means we are going to tap into your local machine's file system. We'll be able to manipulate files, we'll be able to write in and create new files and place that on your hard disk just by using basic JavaScript syntaxes, just by using basic JavaScript grammar to create an application that will look through and search through a set of files and output that on your website. So this is a very powerful way of utilizing or combining both your local machine's environment with the web environment. Now, as we were talking about the HTTP module that we have seen inside the Node's API, and we are calling that module to be used on this very application, on this very simple application. So let me erase this off. We don't need that right now. So what I'm basically doing is that I am calling this require function, which is a function that's given by Node's API, and this require function is used to import or call Node's module. You can even create your own modules, but these modules are in the local scope. So that's why I'm directly using the HTTP name or the name of this module. If you head back over to this website, you'll see something like HTTP and HTTPS. This is in the nodejs.org/API page. So HTTP and HTTPS are basically the same thing. HTTPS has got the secure socket layer or the SSL to make our communication between the browser and the server more secure. So it's going to create a tunnel through which our browser or the user's browser or the visitor's browser is going to send in the request object. It's going to send in this request object, and then our server, the simple server, is going to use that same tunnel to send in a response, to send in an appropriate response. Now, what we have got in here is the HTTP module and in the HTTPS module. So if you click over to this HTTP, you see that it has got several details about this module. Now, the important part whenever you come back to this page is to look at the stability. If you see that there is a green bar showing that the module is stable with the version number, that means you're good to go, which means you're good to actually use this module. This contains the basic documentation about how to use them, what functions or what methods you can use, what events you can trigger, and all the other details, like we can provide a header. And it also tells us in the first line that to use the HTTP server and client, one must require HTTP. So that's the thing that I've done back in my script. I have required the HTTP module, and I have actually called in the HTTP module from the Node's API, and I'm assigning that to a variable called HTTP. So when I call that function and I call in a specific module, this specific module will turn that variable into an object. That's why we will have the privilege of calling in its corresponding functions or methods. That's why I am able to access something called a create server function, create server function on this HTTP object. So you can even create another further variable that will also work as an object. So if it gets a little more confusing for you, let me just rewrite this code. Server.listen, maybe 3000. Okay, now I'm going to explain this. So what we have got back in here is the let us actually look at the create server method that we are talking about. So to look at the create server method, we should head over to the top part of this documentation, of this module documentation on HTTP. So here it is, the http.createServer. So the documentation is assuming that you have already called in the HTTP module from the Node's API and that you have got an object called HTTP. So when you get this object, you'll be able to use that object and refer to the methods that are contained inside that object. So if I click on this HTTP create server, now we are going to look at another form of deprecation, which means, as I was talking about, that you should look at the stability of this module. You must also look at the stability of the functions. You might see that we have got several functions in here. One of the functions that we are talking about is the create server function. So as the Node development team is developing this Node platform, they might actually deprecate some of this, some of these functions. So we are not going to use any sort of